took her in when her father passed away and her only other accommodation presented her with physical abuse.
Without this institution, without this home, we would not know where we would have been. When Aunt Claire had the talk with me saying that we're going to move, I would have to, as I said, I do not have any family members, any at all. And no, I would have to go out into the world without any work experience. I was one of the lucky ones. I moved at 17, got into college at 17, and now I am a teacher at a prominent primary school in Kingston.
And finally, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is encouraging young persons to aim high in the pursuit of personal and national development. Dr. Holness was speaking at the Chancellor Hall Super Lions Award banquet on the weekend, where he was among 6 awardees. He recalled his time on campus at the University of the West Indies Mona campus as one that has shaped him to be strong, fearless, patient, tolerant, and respectful.
The young men who are coming up now, benefiting from the resources of the country through tertiary education, that they still have a sense of responsibility for their country. That it is not all about what the country is going to give you, but what you are going to contribute to the development of your country.
Dr. Holness said he is satisfied that there is a good stock of young men who can take up leadership roles in the society and that such aspiration is beneficial to the country.
And that is important for any society, that the generations coming have the ambition and aspire to high ideals and high office, because the leadership of the country, of any country, the leadership of Jamaica is important. And I am satisfied that we will be seeing leaders coming out of Chancellor Hall as the generations change in our society.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Twyla Whelan. Thanks for watching.
In the wake of Hurricane Beryl, uncertainty loomed over many schools across Jamaica and their ability to reopen for the academic year. Yet through concerted efforts and funding from the Ministry of Education,
we pulled out all the stops so that our schools would be ready for the start of the new school year.
With the support of various stakeholders, institutions like Newell High School have undergone significant repairs, ensuring that learning can continue. With an enrollment of over 850 students, Newell has proudly served as a beacon of academic excellence for more than 50 years. However, the recent hurricane inflicted considerable damage on classrooms, the agricultural farm, and other vital facilities. But despite these challenges, the resilience of the school community shines brightly.
So when we were assessing the damage, our number one priority was trying to see where the critical classrooms were, areas that needed immediate repairs, and what other substitute we could put in place to find classroom space for our students. And so we have been able to identify classes, all not the best ideal situation, but we would have worked and reworked and repurposed some of the spaces so that we can have school for our children and have those spaces comfortable.
One source of support for Newell High came from the Donnie McClurkin Foundation, an international organization that has previously helped schools in Jamaica.
Well, we found out about Newell High School because of the hurricane damage that happened. And this was a central location for us to be able to come and to offer some disaster relief. We had a disaster relief concert in New York to help facilitate all of this with the repairing of some of the things, the replacement of agriculture from the plants to the chicks to the seed.
The support also involved the distribution of essential items such as clothing, non-perishable food, and book bags, all aimed at making a long-lasting impact on the community.
Many were traumatized by the event, so we ensured that they were prepared and given support in that area. We would have also brought in several key personnel just to reassure them and to give them that support needed to ensure that school academically we would have prepared our teachers, have our professional development, have our meetings, strategize as to how best we could deal with our children coming back. And I believe that we are in a good position.
As learning continues, Newell High School has formed strategic alliances to address educational needs.
One of the things that we would have done this year is that we would have recognized that the reading levels of our children coming in, especially given the performance of students across Jamaica in math and English, and we'd have put in partnership with St. Michael's Theological College, a 7th grade academy, where we're placing special emphasis on developing the literacy and numeracy of our children in order for them to do well on external exams.
Looking ahead, Vice Principal Bennett is optimistic about restoring the regular flow of school activities.
And so we're really hoping that going from here, we'll begin to have some resemblance of normalcy, and that we'll get Jamaica back on track, united in the purpose of one nation under God.
As the school community rallies together, the hope is not only to recover, but to emerge stronger, continuing Newell High School's legacy of excellence in education for years to come.
They say hard work pays off, and in the case of Mrs. Christina and Madam Williams, it certainly does. With over 40 years of experience, she stands as the dedicated president of the Horticultural Society, a role she has embraced with unwavering passion and commitment. Mrs. Williams' journey in horticulture began with the simple joy of observing her grandmother in the garden. Surrounded by vibrant blooms and lush greenery, she absorbed invaluable knowledge and skills that will lay the foundation for her remarkable success in the field.
You really ought to inspect your plants every day. When you come out, you ought to inspect your plant to see what is happening. That's the only way you can correct something immediately and so allow it to thrive. You have to water it regularly and care for it generally to ensure that it doesn't take up diseases or pests. And so that can be a full-time job.
One valuable lesson Mrs. Williams has learned from plants is their mastery of adaptability.
Horticulture is always on the move. There are many changes that take place within the industry. And initially when I started out, people focus more on house plants, and now there's just a full range. They're into gardening and all landscaping, all kinds of different aspects. One of the trends that I like is landscaping, because I like to arrange plants in a space, and I enjoy that a lot.
Reflecting on her horticultural endeavors, Mrs. Williams shares how the guidance of past leaders in the society shaped her journey.
The most groundbreaking work that I've done in horticulture is really at the horticultural showgrounds, because even before I became president, I was the facilities manager, and so I was in charge of looking after the grounds. We had a lot of challenges, and just lately, since I become president, I've been able to get the grounds up to a standard for horticultural grounds.
However,
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another post-cabinet press briefing. Today is October 30, 2024, and it is going to be a very interesting post-cabinet press briefing. As you see in the room, there are a lot of people here. There are others who are on their way to discuss many things, and I'll acknowledge many of who are in the room. If I have left anyone out, I am so sorry, but we've had to add matters to today's agenda. I have to acknowledge the Honourable Desmond Mackenzie, our wonderful Minister of Local Government and Community Development, who is here with us. We also have the Honourable Christopher Tufton, our Minister of Health and Wellness. Coming later will be the Honourable Favour Williams, our Minister of Education and Youth. And we will also have the Honourable Robert Nesta Morgan with us, who is our Minister with responsibility for Works. We have several permanent secretaries here with us, and we also have at least one mayor. We should have two mayors here with us today. We do have the Mayor of Morant Bay. His Worship Louis Chin is here with us this morning. And as I said, another mayor should be joining us a little bit later. We also have Mr. Chris Record, the chair of the AI Task Force, with us this morning, members of many of the ministries that I have noted already with ministers here. We also have members of the Artificial Intelligence Association, members of the Jamaica Technology Digital Alliance, and of course, our members of the media and all our Jamaicans who are watching at home and abroad. Good morning. I think based on the list of who is here, who is coming, you kind of know that this is a very big morning. And so we're going to try to get through the entire agenda as best as we can. And I'm going to start this morning with obviously condolences to the family of the student that was killed yesterday, who passed away yesterday at Campion College. It is never easy to hear of the death of any child anywhere. And so I do express condolences to his family and to the school family. And I know the Minister of Education will be here a little bit later, and I'm sure she also will have some words in relation to that. As you all know, Minister Clark, Nigel Clark, he resigned yesterday, effective midnight last night. There will be an announcement of a new Minister of Finance imminently from the Prime Minister. But in terms of looking at Minister Clark's legacy, it's always important to remind everyone of that legacy, and that legacy is very much intertwined with our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and the entire cabinet and administration and the work they've done. And some of the key achievements we could speak to, and the list is unending. Our debt to GDP ratio being the lowest we've seen it in over 20 years, and we expect it to get back to the levels of the 1970s by the end of this fiscal year. Lowest unemployment rate we've ever had in Jamaica's history of 5.4%. All of these consecutive quarters of economic growth, we had a record there. The largest salary increase to public sector workers ever seen. The expansion of PATH benefits and also unemployment insurance. The list goes on and on. We want to thank Minister Nigel Clark, no longer Minister, but Nigel Clark, for his service to Jamaica. And I have to also thank him because he was a big part of the reason I decided to come into the administration. Seeing someone else leaving private sector coming in made me know that it is possible for us to do that. And so I do thank him for his work, and obviously the work continues. But we have a very good cabinet, and we are led by an awesome Prime Minister, and I have no doubt that the work will continue and we will get to where we have always talked about, which is prosperity for every single Jamaican. In terms of crime, I have to do this, and I will do this every week, talking about the reduction in crime numbers. It is not talked about enough. Major crimes are down 14.1%. Murders are down 19%. Those are the facts. And so when murders and major crime were going up, they made the news every single day. Now that they're going down, nobody's talking about it enough. So murders are down 19%. Major crime is down 14.1%. And this is the October 26, 2024 data, year on year. Also, the data shows that because of the work of our policemen and the JCF, we see the number of gangs moving from 600 to 150. Still too many, but that's a big decrease. And that says that our JCF is working, and a lot of the new initiatives that have been implemented are working. The last thing I will point out, because usually I have a longer list, but given everybody here today, I won't be able to go through everything, is in relation to predial larceny, which is a very important issue that affects our farmers, and not just our farmers, but it affects everybody, because our farmers are integrated into their communities. When they lose their livelihood, their families, their communities also lose. And predial larceny is a huge problem in Jamaica. And in the past week, we heard the announcement of 300 agricultural wardens to be recruited over 3 years, and they're going to patrol farms and help us to deal with this issue. And this is going to cost us money. It's going to cost $1.8 billion to do this. but it is money well spent. It is important that we protect the livelihood of our farmers. And so I'm going to stop there in terms of the good news stories and all the things that are happening in government, and I'm going to move to our first guest, who is our Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honourable Christopher Tufton.
Do not touch mic. Can I raise it a little bit? Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Minister. And based on all the guests that you have here, it almost seems like you're having a retreat. I will make my presentation swift and accommodate some questions because I have a meeting also at 9:30. So let me just say good morning to all who are here, and in particular my colleague, Minister Mackenzie, and of course your chairperson, Minister Dana Dixon Morrison. So I've been out of the parliamentary sittings physically out because of my unfortunate incident, and that kept me out for nearly 10 weeks, thereabouts. I think I limped in here one morning and did a press briefing. But generally speaking, I've had to be working remotely. So yesterday I gave an update on the things that have been happening, which normally I would do routinely, but due to the situation I was unable to do. So that presentation should be available on our website, the ministry's website. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things and then accommodate any questions in terms of the status of healthcare. For good or bad, my presentation came in the context of the opposition's press briefing the day before, based on some comments I had made at Bustamante Hospital for Children re a particular incident. And I used the opportunity to respond. And I just want to say as a starting point that, you know, we live in a democracy where the cut and thrust of policy discussion is a good thing. And we cherish that. And there are many jurisdictions where that is either not allowed or, in some instances, heavily restricted. I have no issues with debating policy and policy geared towards improving the well-being of the Jamaican people. But, you know, there's a tendency, if I may venture an opinion, that as we get closer to decision-making in our democracy, people sometimes tend to lose reason and logic around some of these policy discussions. And what I hear coming out of the opposition, unfortunately, is sends too many mixed signals as to the seriousness of intent. And I just want to say that a number of things, unfortunately, inaccuracies, which may create a bad impression, the wrong impression in the first instance. For starters, about the procurement process. We have a law that prescribes how procurement is done. Now, I may have some issues with it, to be totally frank, because I do believe that oftentimes it is very lengthy, it's bureaucratic, and we do not achieve the results that we intend to insufficient time. And while there are provisions around emergency procurement, even that sometimes has its own hurdles that has to be crossed. So any debate around procuring, using government funds, equipment or building or otherwise, needs to be taken in the context of that. And I think there's a policy discussion that should be had around that process, but not a leap to suggest that somehow that process is being ignored and somehow the Ministry of Health is purchasing substandard equipment. I don't know of it, and if it is brought to my attention, I will deal with it. But I would encourage that we have a conversation more around the process than to start laying blame on all and sundry. And then the almost ludicrous comments around rapacious capitalism. We exist in a free market, and that market is guided by these processes. And I think we should be proud of it, despite its imperfections at times, because the alternative is far less perfect which is for unilateral decisions around who gets what. And I think we should stay clear of that. That is what characterized the 70s, that era, which we have all lived to regret in many respects. And so I just want to lay that out and to say, let's discuss policy. I'm ready, raring to go in the context of our competitive democracy. But let's not give false narratives, false impressions, hyperbolic statements, extremities, exaggerations, which only confuses the public and serves no useful end. Over the last number of months, a number of things have happened. I know Cornwall is a Achilles heel, if you will, of the government, of myself and my stewardship, because there's a lot to be said about the length of time, which is understandable. But I'm happy to report, and I said so in Parliament, that we're now in phase 3 of Cornwall. Phase 3 is the reoccupation phase, and that hopefully will offer some hope to those who may have felt like there was none at another point. In fact, we are hoping that we will start reoccupying the main building, the 10th floor building. Of course, Cornwall as an institution continues to function, and a number of positives. But we're hoping that before Christmas, we will begin to occupy that facility, starting with the administration, and then we will go into a few other areas. Let me just quickly list them. And there's a reason for dealing with administration, record keeping, the server room. The brain of the institution starts there. And so in the wisdom of the project management team, in conceptualizing the approach to reoccupation, those were the areas that were required to be occupied first. Going into next year, first quarter, and by second quarter, the brand new A&E will be developed. And every month or every other month, you'll see more occupation of the facility. So I'm happy to report that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's taken a while. There was a 3-year almost hiatus because of COVID. Otherwise, we'd have been there already. But nevertheless, the people of Western Jamaica and Jamaica will see a brand new Cornwall Regional Hospital. And when I say new, it is a rescoped project, which explains the cost, where every single piece of equipment and input will be new, except the concrete and mortar, which is the original 10th floor, which has been substantially overhauled. So windows, doors, tiles, ward space, beds, and all the other diagnostic equipment will be brand new, or in Jamaican parlance, new brand. And we believe that that will mean another 50 years with appropriate servicing. Beside Cornwall, Western Child and Adolescent Hospital is in a good place now. We're projecting May of next year, May, June, for its reopening, for its official opening, the first new, fully new hospital in Jamaica in 30 or plus years. And that facility will begin with an additional 300 employment to support those that will transition from Cornwall who are dealing with pediatric and adolescent care, because it will be a pediatric and adolescent hospital. And all told, Cornwall and Western Child come next year, and then a few months beyond that, we'll see some 800 beds in place at that vicinity, the largest concentration of hospital beds, 12 new operating theaters, and I could go on and on. And so that means progress. It doesn't represent crisis, as some have positioned the narrative. I want to commend the lab services at Cornwall Regional, who recently got JANAC certification, which means that the lab services at the very Cornwall Regional Hospital have gone through a series of quality standard evaluation. They did 1.7 million lab tests last year, and they are now certified to global standards. So a lot of good things are going on at Cornwall Regional, and I want to mention them. Myself and Minister Hill had a press brief related to that recently. Elsewhere in the build-out program, we broke ground recently, signed a contract for the Old Harbour Health Center. All told, including new equipment, will be about 930 million. and that is part of the health system strengthening. Spanish Town Hospital, the foundation is now being dug up, and concrete, I believe, will be poured soon. That's for a 6-story, almost $50 million building, so has started. The University Hospital of the West Indies is almost complete its new parking space and rerouted ring road of 270 million Jamaican dollars. And beyond that, we'll create the space for the next floor to be developed, a 6-floor building. Designs are complete, and we're going to market to deal with that. And in another month or so, we will sign contracts for the new St. Jago Health Center beside Spanish Town and one in Portmore. And we will announce by the end of the year, early new year, plans for St. Anne and Maypen, both hospitals and health centers under the new health system strengthening. Just to note, in a macro way, 35 billion Jamaican dollars has been allocated by this government to upgrade and modernize our healthcare infrastructure. That's not a crisis. That's going forward. And I think those who mix the narrative don't appreciate fully the efforts. And I want to thank the men and women of public health, including the project management teams, for the efforts. The second point is in modernization is the health information systems. You may recall that we had signed a contract with Cable and Wireless to connect 105 health centers and hospitals digitally, so information can flow between them and within those institutions as part of the electronic health records. I'm happy to announce that some 88% of that target has been met so far and continue. So just over 90 of those facilities are now networked. And in terms of the health record system, the software that captures the patient data, stores it, and makes it readily available in real time for ease of access and a shorter time to treat with patients. Maypen Hospital is fully online, and Spanish Town is now fully online. I'm going there to officially kick that one off. They have been doing training, and simply put, because everything is about the people on the ground, it means that when you turn up at Spanish Town Hospital and you give your name and they punch that in, your entire record comes up, which gives you a much easier task on the doctors and administrators to determine what your health history is, treatment history is, medication history, what you're allergic to, and the doctors can treat in a much shorter time, as opposed to that physical file, which is always a problem. This government is modernizing public health. This is not a crisis. We are building, we are upgrading, and the people of Jamaica will benefit from that. So more to be said on that as we continue to advance the new system. In a few months, we're going to be announcing, hopefully, the results of a tender process in keeping with the government procurement rules around the leasing of diagnostic equipment. So part of the modernization has been, how do we get equipment sustainably in the health system that works? And you've heard me comment on it. Big part of the problem is that we procure these equipment in the past. We have no extended service arrangements with the suppliers. And suppliers tend to, and I'll say it, controversial as it is, store the risk of inventory or not having inventory on hand in the health system, and therefore tell us that we need 2 months, a month, because they have to manufacture the part in some faraway country, or the servicer, the personnel have to fly in from overseas, and an essential service in the meantime is down, operating theaters included, and can't function. So we are rearranging that system where those who are successful in providing under this lease arrangement have to come with training for servicing and routine servicing, not just when the equipment breaks down. So we're hoping over the next year or so, a much clearer path to ensuring that our CT scans or MRIs, the more complicated equipment, are not just digitized and modernized, but there is consistency of effort to support that. And the same is going to be for a number of the other moving parts, the mechanical parts in our health system. This week, the controversy that sparked these commenced came out of an operating theater air conditioning system that never worked and or wasn't working. And I'm at pains to make the point that it wasn't a lack of money why the AC system wasn't working. The government issued a contract, the hospital, to the service provider. They were willing to pay for the repairs. And 6 months on, the provider could not do it. They had to terminate that contract, hire another provider, and hence the problem was where it was. The same could be said for a separate provider at Victoria Jubilee Hospital. The same could be said for another at Sablamar Hospital. We have a problem, and part of the challenge may be with us in terms of how we manage and administer. In some instances, we're not perfect. But a big part of the problem is the relationship we have with stakeholders who are expected to have trained personnel on the ground and be able to supply parts and so on to fix some of these problems. And that's something we have to address in the next dispensation. I'll take 2 more minutes just to say that a number of our other projects are on hand as announced and are doing fairly well. Operation Refresh. So we unveiled a primary healthcare model because the view by all of us who have looked at the data and the analytics of the data is that we have to do more towards community healthcare and try to avoid people rushing and crowding out our hospitals. So we announced in the sectoral, I announced in May, a 1 billion program under the theme Operation Refresh, which is to address health centers that need upgrading. And there are basic things that we're going to do and have been doing. Cooler environment, so air conditioning of the waiting areas for patients to feel more comfortable. Clean bathrooms and running water. A kitchen or cafeteria for the staff. Maybe a little conference room for meeting. More comfortable environment for the doctors. Pharmacy where necessary. And we have started that process. Last week I was at Catherine Hall Health Center in West Central St. Catherine. The week before that at Adelphi, in Montego Bay also. Before that I was in St. Thomas. So we have identified about 100 health centers under this program, and the feedback so far has been good. And the idea under primary care reform is to improve the facilities for a more comfortable setting and attract more people in, but also expand the services that we offer under this new dispensation. And our primary healthcare model document was tabled in the Parliament, which you can review. Just 2 other things, and then I'll take questions. The smaller branded programs that we have had have been going on and doing well. We have done the Second Chance Smiles. That's a denture replacement program. Some 50,000 individuals have visited these facilities around this. 18,000 require some level of pre-prosthetic care, meaning some type of oral surgery, and a number of others have benefited from actual dentures. And that program is quite popular with many Jamaicans, unfortunately. Many of us choose the first option when we have a problem, oral health problem of extraction. And so we accompany that with a good oral health messaging. The New Limb, New Life, which is prosthetic replacement, 71 Jamaicans benefited $32 million under this program, diabetes being the major cause of people losing their limb. And I'm very proud to say that the Jamaica Cuban Eye Care Program, since September to September this year, 1 year, they have done 1,847 surgeries, 1,192 cataract, 73 cases had to be rescheduled, largely because patients had to be treated, hypertension and so on, so they had to be prepared for surgery. But the Cuban Eye Care Program has seen some 21,000 Jamaicans over the 12-month period. 17 Cubans, optometrists, ophthalmologists, and 5 locals, 5 Jamaicans, and they've really been doing a good job to enhance the eye care program in Jamaica. I think I'll stop there unless you have any particular issue you want to ask. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Minister. And Naomi is here, so We will start to take the questions from the media at this time.
All right, fantastic. Good morning, everyone. I recognize our media partners are here. Mahiri, are you starting?
Morning, Minister. Mahiri Stewart here from Nationwide News. Yesterday when we were speaking on Nationwide at 5, we had brought up the issue of cancer screening. And you said that there were plans in place in order to procure more machines. Could you speak on how many mammogram machines we have in the country right now and what plans are in place to get more cancer screening machines in general?
All right, don't quote me, but I think we have in the public health system, if you include UWI, which is semi-public, they have I believe KPH, Mandeville, Cornwall Regional, I think maybe about 6 or so, but I could be off because I know there are plans to acquire more. Incidentally, up to 5 years ago, we didn't have, I don't think we had 2. So we have made significant progress in that regard. The general issue around screening is something that we have to encourage. It's not just around cancer screening, but getting Jamaicans to know their numbers or know their health status, which is why we have the Know Your Numbers program. So we have actually gone out, I think over the last year we did well over 150,000 different tests, not in the institutions, but taking it on the road into the town centers and the communities, where we have done a series of tests, including in some instances, not breast cancer screening, but prostate. But where there is suspicion based on general screening, we recommend persons to get screened. So I think we have to try and change that culture. People tend to go to the hospital when they're sick, not just for regular checkup. And part of that, of course, is cancer screening, because cancer rates are actually rising.
All right, Minister, I hear because we have a packed house, the media will just allow the proceedings to continue. And
okay,
then maybe
excellent. Thank you very much.
Remember that we had the Minister of Health here to answer all of your questions. And we only had one question, so I think what they're saying is they're good. They
or they all know how to reach me, so you can call me if you need me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Minister. All right, so our next minister to come, and again, I always say this, our administration is very transparent, and we're here to give information to the media and to the public as best as we can. And a morning like this really does demonstrate it. When we do these post-cabinet press briefings, our ministers make themselves available to take any question from the media, and there are many this morning who are here waiting to take those questions. And so the next minister up this morning is the wonderful Robert Nesta Morgan, our Minister with responsibility for Works, who is going to give you an update on the roads, which is an area that many Jamaicans have a very strong interest in. So welcome, Minister. It's good to see you here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. And no, I didn't pay her to give me that compliment. And morning to everybody, morning to members of the media, and also our listening and viewing public. I'm here this morning to basically give you some updates on the Spark and REACH programs. As you know, we have 2 main programs going on now. The REACH program came about because of the impact of Hurricane Beryl on sections of the island, particularly the south coast, including St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and other parishes on the south coast. We would have allocated over about $1.5 billion, thereabout, to the National Solid Waste Management Authority, as well as to the National Works Agency to carry out cleaning and some rehabilitation works in various communities. The REACH is almost complete. It's about 82% complete in terms of the cleanup aspect of it. We would have focused on vector control, particularly in areas of Portmore where you have a lot of earth drains. We'd have focused on cleaning those to reduce the mosquito population. The other aspect of REACH, which is a $3 billion program, is the road rehabilitation program, and that is currently ongoing. Prime Minister would have announced it in September, but due to consistent rains, we were not able to escalate the patching. I think in a ballpark way, we have lost probably about 60 to 80 tons of asphalt due to rain, where contractors would have gone out with a truckload of asphalt to do patching, and the rains came down, and you cannot put down cold asphalt. So we had to make decisions during the period to pause the patching. I know that there are members of the public, justifiably so, who are a bit concerned about the patching not moving as fast as they would like it to. But we have to ensure that it is done properly so that it does not, the patched road does not become destroyed too quickly. The REACH program goes until March. That's the patching aspect. It ends in March of next year. So we'll be doing road rehabilitation from now all the way into March. And then I can also announce this morning that the Public Investment Management Committee, which is PIMC, yesterday approved the SPARK program. I think that's something that is very significant. It was the last act of our now departed finance minister, where he ensured that the $45 billion SPARK program was approved by that entity. It will now go to the Public Procurement Committee, where we expect it will be approved, and then it will go to Infrastructure Committee and Cabinet. So we are on track for the first road to be fixed before the end of the year on SPARK. I want to mention something about SPARK that I don't think a lot of people recognize. We have condensed a 2-year procurement in about 7 months. We started the SPARK procurement in and around, Prime Minister announced in March. We started about April, May, and we're now at the back end. Usually these things take about 18 to 24 months, and I think I must give credit to the National Works Agency, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, as well as the Constituency Development Fund and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and the MPs and councillors across the island who accommodated us in their constituencies for the consultations. They have submitted over 600 roads, community roads, to be repaired over the 2-year span of the program, which includes both total rehabilitation of roads as well as the replacement of NWC water pipes. So that's the update. We have so far had consultations in 62 of 63 constituencies. Each constituency would have submitted approximately 10 roads each. We will not be fixing all 630 roads in the first year of the SPARK program, but a significant amount will be procured. We've been having engagements with various stakeholders such as Petrojam to deal with the asphalt production. We've been working with the presumed enterprise contractor about their alliances with the local contractors, who are very important partners in the SPARK program. So I just wanted to make those announcements. Patching continues. I want to apologize in advance to all those who go and pick up their children in the afternoon and confront asphalting team, which causes significant delays. We're trying to work as fast as possible and trying to be as non-disruptive as possible. So I want to apologize in advance for that. And that's my update, Minister Maurice Dixon. I don't think anybody have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions on the fantastic patching that's happening across the island and the roadworks that will come that Minister Morgan has spearheaded?
Mary never had a question because I said it.
All right, there are questions.
No,
wonderful.
There are more than one, actually.
Wonderful.
So let's start off with Shoshana this time.
Good morning, Ministers. Shoshana Small from Leglino. Minister Morgan, there is no special legislation under which this park program is going to be taking place, right? So what I want to find out, it is a big program, 2 to 3 years, $45 billion. What are the mechanisms in place to ensure that there is a high level of accountability to how this money is spent?
Well, And that's a very important question, and I thank you for it. The current accountability framework that exists in the government is the most robust that we have had in our history, which is why, if you look at the Integrity Commission report, the annual report, you'll see that they have examined thousands of government contracts, road contracts, building contracts, and they have not found adverse findings in any of them. The Integrity Commission has full right. The Auditor General has full right. All the government governance entities have full right to examine every single government contract that exists. What we have done, Spark was an international tender. It wasn't just a local tender. We went internationally to get the best companies. We would have followed the procurement rules established by the statutes that exist in Jamaica. We would have followed all the necessary governance frameworks to ensure that there is no question about fairness and equity, and there has been no question by anyone who has been involved in the Spark procurement process of any unfairness or inequity. As the program is executed, based on the contract, which is now at the AG's department being reviewed by that team, the contractor will have certain obligations. The government is the owner of the contract, not the executor of the contract. The execution of the contract will be done by the enterprise contractor, who will be announced shortly. And they will be held accountable, as they are now being held accountable on the South Coast Highway Improvement projects, for any defects that may occur on the project. And under Spark, there will be a defects liability period where if they build a road and there are flaws, let's say 12 months or thereabout, they have to fix it without any cost to the country. So, new accountability mechanism, I don't think that's necessary, because the ones we have are extremely robust. They are very independent. They are very capable, as is reported on your news on a regular basis about whatever investigations are taking place. So that's basically the framework that we're working in.
Minister, thank you for that comprehensive response. I see several persons online as well just asking, so when are we seeing asphalt on the ground? Is there an update in terms of a schedule of roads that would be repaired?
So the Spark website is being finalized now. We will be publishing on the Spark website every single road that will be repaired and a presumptive timeline as to when they will be repaired. Based on where we are in the procurement process, we know we just received PIMC. And you have to give credit to the Ministry of Finance. The PIMSEC, is it the PIMSEC process or the PIAB process? The PIAB process, and Minister Williams is a member of PIAB, is a very involved and long process. And the Ministry of Finance's team would have condensed it and worked overtime. It's thousands of pages of documents. The Spark is one of the biggest infrastructure projects that we have done under CAPEX in this way. And the Ministry of Finance team would have worked overtime yesterday to pass the process. Now, we are now in we are almost in November. Now we go to Public Procurement Commission, which is going to take about a week. Then we have to go to Cabinet, which is going to take another week. So I expect that by the middle to the end of November, Cabinet will have the opportunity through the Infrastructure Committee to make a decision, which I suspect would be a positive decision on the execution. And I know that the enterprise contractor has the capability to move very quickly. So you will get roads being built before Christmas, long before Christmas.
Wonderful. And can you say, just my own follow-up, when will that website go live?
Probably in another 2 to 3 weeks.
Another 2 to 3 weeks. And then, of course, the public can go and look there as well. Mahiri, you have a question.
Morning, Minister Morgan.
Morning, Mayor.
As I listened to your presentation, one thing did catch my ear that I want more clarity on. You said 62 out of 63 constituencies have submitted their roads. Which is the outstanding one, and what's the hold-up?
I think that we have already engaged with the Member of Parliament, and to go back into the era, so I don't want to cause that member of parliament to in the public domain. There were some challenges as it relates to the organization of the consultation. So I'm giving that member of parliament the opportunity in an atmosphere of magnanimity and deference.
All right, again, our media practitioners want to make sure we speed the morning along. I think the AI team who is here too, I think both of them are looking forward to that. No more questions for Minister Morgan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Minister Morgan. And again, the Spark program is going to be the biggest road improvement program we've done. And as he said, we've never done things like this. We have a website where any member of the public can go and see which roads are being fixed and look at timelines, and there is just accountability built into the PIAB process. And I can say that this has been very important, the roads. I have projects in PIAB lined up and Spark skipped them. I'm not so happy, but it is important. And for many Jamaicans, the roads are an important issue, and we've had to prioritize it through the PIAB process. And it's a good day when we hear the minister say that the Public Investment Management Committee has approved it, which means it is full speed ahead after Cabinet approves it on Monday. All right, so the next team up is one that every week I come here I'm asked about. When is the AI task force report being finalized? When is it going to be done? And so today we are going to have an update from the chair of the AI task force on that. And artificial intelligence in terms of the government is very important. AI is here. It's going nowhere. As a country, we need to be prepared for it and prepared in every single element of our society. Many of our businesses are already using AI. And we have educational institutions. And as I said that, the head of the AI Association just walked through the door. And I know at the University of the West Indies, they have invited me to some of their own hackathons. And when you see our brilliant young people using AI to solve problems that we have in Jamaica, it is amazing. And so what we have to do as a government is ensure that we're ready for what is already here and what is to come. And that's why the government decided last year to appoint an AI task force. And I have to thank Minister Morgan, who is here, and I'm publicly thanking him, because I know before the first day I came in with responsibility for digital transformation, I got a call from him saying, I was working on this AI task force thing, and I think you should get it since this is now your portfolio. And he handed over documents to me because he'd already done so much of the pre-work, and so all I needed to do was to take it forward. So I want to thank Minister Morgan, and it's nice for you to be here this morning when the AI task force is actually presenting its report. And again, this is collaboration. We collaborate like this. We get along really well in cabinet, and we love working together. And so this morning, Chris Record is going to come as the chair of the AI task force to report to you on the findings of the AI task force, its recommendations. And there's a lot of work to come, but they're going to tell you what they found very briefly, and we'll take some questions from you. Thank you. Chris Record. Please welcome Chris Record.
Not touch the mic. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All the protocols having been already recognized. Thank you very much. Ministers are here. I'd like to also recognize our task force members that are in the audience. I see Trevor Forrest. I see Dr. Sean Thorpe. Who else is here that came in afterwards? Okay. Professor Kaur is here. And also, let me just make sure that I'm pronouncing everybody's names properly, because I don't want to make any mistake. My own member who just walked in is, let me just get this properly, is, okay, Ruth Baker Gardner, Dr. Ruth Baker Gardner here, and Dr. Professor, yes, Cora already mentioned you. All right, folks, okay. And also, Mr. Carswell is also here. Members, thank you very much for being here. So, folks, the task force was created about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and we were given a year to do this job. In a world where artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic concept, but a present reality, countries around the globe are leveraging this powerful technology to drive innovation, enhance economies, and improve lives. As a nation, we must not only recognize the shift, but actively position ourselves to be leaders in this transformation, leaders in the region. So today I stand before you with a combination of months of research and analysis and deliberation, and a set of recommendations that not only reflect opportunities AI presents, but also addresses the challenges that we must navigate as a country. And Minister Morgan, you know, some of those challenges you mentioned a while ago, and the length of time that some of these things take, AI can in fact shorten a fair amount of these activities if we do our work properly and allow it. So the task force document was presented to the ministry, and of course, being a digital transformation set of people, I'm just showing it to you digitally, was presented to the Office of the Prime Minister recently. The process was detailed. We had our various groups split into various smaller committees, where each committee delved into a certain number of thematic areas where research was done, global documents were reviewed, policies from other countries, we took a look at, and we ended up with coming together with our own perspective. So we did a SWOT analysis of the organization, of the country, and we have our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats listed in the document. And then we also then broke down our recommendations in 9 specific areas, and I'll just outline these 9 areas right now. So area number 1 is AI for innovation and economic growth. Number 2, education and workforce development. Happy that Minister is here with us. Number 3, public awareness and sensitization. 4, AI infrastructure and technology. International cooperation in AI, number 5. 6, legal and regulatory frameworks for AI. Government and industrial collaboration, number 7. And then, of course, there can be no AI policy document without discussion around the ethical foundations of AI. And then, of course, we ended with number 9, set of recommendations, comprehensive AI framework that needed to be put in place. So at a very high level, I will share some of the suggestions and recommendations. So each area, each thematic area, there are challenges outlined for each of the areas. Then there's a recommendations, short-term, medium-term, long-term recommendations for each of these areas. So I'll just, at a very high level, speak to the some of the recommendations coming out of the task force. The task force membership in totality consists of public sector, private sector, and of course our academic institutions. So there is feedback and experience and expertise coming from all areas. And of course there are folks who are pro AI being good, and there are folks who are cautioned about the issues with AI and potential hazards. And we're not going to get into any science fiction stories, but the fact of the matter is that there was a very balanced discussion and debate as we went through our deliberations. So in terms of some very high level around our SWOT analysis, the strengths, talking about the high level of alignment with the Vision 2030, our strategic geographic location, there has to be something said for that where we are. Our growing tech ecosystem, I recognize members of the JTDA, Jamaica Technology Digital Alliance here. And youthful and tech-savvy population, yes, we are. And of course, collaborative regional efforts. One of the things that we did have a member on our committee that was connected to the UNESCO Caribbean AI Policy Roadmap document. And so there's a fair amount of taking a look at UNESCO documents that contributed. And of course, one of the things that I made sure that I had to put in there, a line item that Jamaica is a cultural superpower, right? And as a result of that, how are we going to leverage AI to ensure that that remains and that use of AI does not negate or take away? Because we are seeing all kind of fake things that are happening out there that, you know, we all know it ain't Jamaican, right? So we have to ensure that some of these warnings and preventions are in there. Weaknesses: digital divide, skills gap, workforce preparedness, limited research, regulatory ethical challenges, dependencies on external technology providers as some of the weaknesses. All the opportunities are listed. We have a fair amount. It has a potential to drive significant economic growth. Big opportunity there. Public-private sector collaboration, big opportunity. International partnerships, we have a whole section of recommendation there. And of course, the threats. We cannot have anything around digital or technology without having listed cybersecurity risk as a threat, and of course, data privacy and data protection as some of the risk areas. Ethical and social, global competitiveness, and of course, a big one that nobody likes to talk about is our general resistance to change. It's there, and it's a real situation, and we have to find the most delicate, nuanced way to deal with it. So one of our top areas of recommendations, and I will just jump to this one because the minister is sitting right in front of me, and this is around education, right? And so, and I just read the policy issue as we wrote it down in the document. Within education, generative AI technologies have already disrupted traditional assessment methodologies as they push the boundaries of academic integrity and challenge teaching objectives. For example, allowing students to produce perfect answers without engaging the educational material. However, AI competencies can be beneficial in the workforce, providing a productivity boost in diverse sectors. While some jobs will be automated, new ones will emerge, requiring specialized AI knowledge. Jamaica's education system must find ways to build competencies in AI literacy for both teachers and students alike without compromising the validity of student assessment, and to equip workforce with the necessary AI and STEM skills to be competitive in a global economy. So that's just the policy issue. We listed the challenges in that area. Then, of course, there's a list of recommendations. Because it's education, I think is massively important. I'll just list the short-term recommendations we outlined, and those short-term include integrating AI and coding into the national curriculum for AI for all educational levels. Launch teacher training programs focused on responsible AI use and effective assessments. Now, it's not that we're in there navigating and pushing that we want every student coming out of our school system to become coders. No. What we want to happen is that everyone understands the capabilities of what these tools can give. So whichever area, whether it's farming, whether it's medical, whatever areas that they want to go into, they must know that this is a tool that they can use to enhance what they're doing and take it to the next level. So that's just one that I'll highlight and outline. I will also mention the other one around building AI infrastructure and technology. Again, our team debated and discussed. The fact of the matter is that will we be considered an AI producing country, or are we going to be leveraging AI to enhance what we're already producing? So, the whole discussion is about, we might need the right infrastructure to support AI. We know what areas, many areas in Jamaica, particularly rural regions, still lack fast, reliable internet. Improving digital infrastructure, expanding broadband access, and developing data centers are essential for Jamaica to support AI technologies. So the question is, how much of that are we actually suggesting and digging into versus the others where we're actually just leveraging what exists? Some of my friends every now and then say, look, Kingston is not Jamaica, and it's something that we have to remember. We have to figure out how's rural leveraging it, leveraging some of these situations. And of course, ethical and regulatory framework, there has to be some recommendations and suggestions around that. To guide this responsible use, we aligned our recommendations with global ethical standards like the UNESCO's guidelines along AI ethics, which outline best practices for countries like Jamaica, because it was actually for the small island developing states in the region. So, next steps, what does the future hold? We laid out, as I said, we laid out a list of short, medium, and long term. At the end of the document, we did have a table, so you could, skip to that if you need to, around all the various thematic areas which was outlined earlier. So at a very high level, that is the report. We have a call to action in closing, and I'll probably just go straight to that section, which is, very, very short. And I'll just kind of read that little section there. where we just concluded that this comprehensive set of policy recommendations provides a pathway for Jamaica to embrace AI as a catalyst for national development by addressing critical policy issues, fostering innovation, and ensuring ethical AI use. Jamaica will be well positioned to leverage AI for sustainable growth and cultural preservation, creating a future where technology and humanity thrive together. We did have very, very robust debate around our cultural reality, because as I said, Jamaica being a cultural superpower, what's going to happen to protect, to ensure? And you know, I brought that back because we had to ensure that even in the conclusion, we put in the word for sustainable growth and cultural preservation, because again, that's one of the things that we have going for us. I sit on 1 and 2 committees and government boards, and there are situations where organizations have been approved for 30, 40, maybe 100 positions, and they've been looking to fill these positions for 2 years and can't fill them. So I have a different view and concern when I hear folks worry about AI is coming to take over the jobs. I said, what about the jobs that we can't find? All these positions are there. I sat in a room with an ED just 2 weeks ago where the person's explaining all the challenges and they only have 2 people to do this job. When I listen to the job, the description of what the person has to do, I'm like, technology can do that in 2 seconds. I have 2 or 3 people that I could call in right now to have them write something to help with that. We're not replacing the job. We need to find 5 more people and we can't. So some of these things are something that a number of us in the industry and a number of us as task force members here have debated and discussed around what we need to consider. So, folks, at a very, very high level for the short time that I was given, I hope that I give a high-level overview as to what the document is, just around 30 pages long. And we had a very interesting way of capturing the information from the entire group. Because, of course, when we have these committee meetings, not everyone comes to every meeting. So we had in-person meetings physically here in this very room, and then we had meetings online where we put out all the thematic areas, and everyone contributed to them online, digitally, and then we then massaged and pulled that information, created a first draft, sent it to everyone. We got feedback, and then the last 2 meetings, sit down, where we literally read the entire document word for word, and robust debate again as to what must be there, what mustn't be there, what has to be in there, why this must be there. We must put this in 3 places because it's massively important. So, folks, that was the work that was done. And again, you know what? I need to just have our members stand so people can see who they are. So, Carswell, Top, Trevor, come on, stand up. Prof. Core, Rita. Oh, no, you're not part of that committee, you're at the other committee. PSOJ. So I had some folks from PSOJ who actually contributed. And who else? Marjorie, you're not part of the committee. You're not standing, Marjorie. Come on, folks. So this is a part of our task force here, folks. Out of the 18 persons, we have the 6 or 7 right here. So thank you very much. And any questions around the AI task force?
Thank you very much, Chris, for your work. And I have to thank the entire task force for all of their work. Their report went to Cabinet last week, I believe, and Cabinet received the report and was very happy to see that the report was completed. In many instances, task forces take a long time, and they go sometimes years after their deadline. They were appointed for a year. I think you were only 6 weeks late. That's it. But there was a hurricane. So I will say they were basically on time, which is not usually the case. So I have to congratulate the task force for that. I am going to open up for questions on the report.
Boy, the anxious gleaner is ready. They've been asking for weeks, so let's start off with Shoshana.
Every week you've asked, and here it is.
Good morning, Mr. Record Minister. My name is Shoshana Small from the Gleaner. So my first question is, the AI boom started, over 2 years ago, and you mentioned it yourself, where you're seeing it being used in different sectors in society. Now, do you think that we were a little bit slow out the blocks in terms of having our recommendations just being popularized for how we are supposed to leverage this technology and to guide its implementation and its use in Jamaica? Do you think we're a little bit slow?
Short answer is no, I don't think we're slow. For us as technologists in the room, and I do see some of my friends who've been in the industry for 40 years, there's some of these technologies come, and there's an organization, a global organization called Gartner, that has something called a hype cycle. And there is a hype that happens with the technology. And then after the hype, the peak, it goes back down and it gets into some sort of normalcy, they call it a trough of disillusionment, and then it comes normal. We're just at that hype cycle right now, and we're coming back down. So yes, with some technologies, you can jump in very early and you log on to the hype, where every single solitary bit of digital technology is all of a sudden called AI, right? So when it was just, programming, automation, it was expert systems, it was, machine learning, every single solitary thing all of a sudden is branded AI. And then, of course, every single solitary soul all of a sudden becomes an AI expert. All these people that that person don't know diddly about AI, all of a sudden is an expert in AI. And so you just have to smile and move along, because a lot of us been in the industry for 40 years doing what we're doing. So short answer again is I don't think we're late. We're just going with the time and going with the hype cycle. Not really, but we're kind of looking to see, okay, where are we with this thing? Because it is cooling off right now. And by the way, the billions and billions of dollars that were invested in a lot of companies, a lot of people are bawling right now because it's falling apart.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Minister, I have one online wanting to then know the process from now, the fact that Cabinet has received, to how then you will move to implement or amend any of the recommendations and get it now running in the country.
Sure. There's a process, so now that Cabinet has seen it, and we are making it available also to the public, so the public can see the work of the task force. We will then move to developing an AI policy for Jamaica. That's the main recommendation from the committee, and that is something that is very important because there are many elements of AI that we have to look at. So the Ministry of Education, for example, has already led, and there are questions about how late we are. I will note that the UN, they did their research and had their big committee on AI for humanity, and this is a big body. And that AI report was just finalized in December and being rolled out now. Jamaica is actually one of the leaders in having done an AI task force like this and actually having really detailed recommendations available. So we're actually at the forefront. The Ministry of Education has already done an AI policy for schools, and that was finalized this summer in August. So they are already moving along, working in tandem with the work of the task force. And so the ministries were not just waiting for the AI task force to finish, because we knew AI was here. Our students were already engaging with it. Many of our students use ChatGPT on a regular basis. And so the Ministry of Education had to be proactive from the very beginning in terms of looking at it. Many of our universities have been proactive in terms of using AI quite a bit more. And many of our other government agencies, I know, are looking at tools that could be used. So the next step for us is really having an AI policy. And I always talk about the ethics of AI. There is a lot of work for us to do in relation to the ethics around AI. So Jamaica as a leader in those conversations is important, because even if we look at some of the AI tools that could be used, for example, in banking, you could use some AI tools for discrimination against people who live in a particular way, depending on how you build your algorithms and some of the AI that's embedded in some of these decision systems that are built. So we have to be very mindful of that and have policies related to that. We also have to look at AI and the impact of AI in media, and even in terms of our democratic processes. How do you use AI? Because you've seen it so much. You can use AI to make anyone look like they said something that they did not say. Those are things we're going to have to contend with, and we're going to have to figure out. And so there will be an AI policy, and there will probably have to be different sub-policies depending on the area.
All right, great. Shoshana? All right.
Thank you. Mr. Record, you mentioned earlier about the use of AI in different industries. The BPO industry is one of those industries that people were worried that AI would come and take all the jobs. So based on your research, what have you seen to be the impact of AI in this industry?
So very interestingly, one of our members was Mr. Yanni Epstein, who's the chairman and CEO of ITIL BPO in the region. And just 2 weeks ago, he actually launched a product, AI product that they created. And this is one of the discussions that we have here repeated over and over again with respect to AI will not replace your job. The person using AI will replace your job. And so at that launch, one of the things I said, the company who's now leveraging and building an AI tool to help the team. So one of the things that they're doing is actually using AI tools to help that agent to become a super agent. So they're able to deliver a lot more services to their customers globally because they have global customers that use their services here. There are some jobs that will be reduced, the amount of them, because AI tool or technology can do it a lot faster. But similar to all the other industrial revolutions that have happened before, where there's a continuous worry, at the end of it, there was always an increase in more people being hired around the area because of the other retraining, reskilling that took place in that industry. So same here. I mean, yes, one caution is that this is the first industrial revolution where the technology, quote unquote, can actually think for itself. So this is a little different. But this is now just another thing for us to learn. So, in our discussions with the BPO industry, they are leveraging it a lot more than we're actually realizing, right? So, when a call, just for example, one of the things that were explained to us, when a call happens, there's a lot of analysis that they have to give back to their customers. How long the call took to be answered, how long was the person been on hold, what was the mood during the call, did the customer seem happy, and all of that. Remember, for those of us who call into call centers, we hear something that say, this call may be recorded for whatever purposes. So a person was actually sitting down and listening sometimes randomly. Guess what they're now doing? They're using AI now to do all of that fast. So instead of waiting a week or two, almost instantly after a shift finishes, they are now able to deliver that report. So long and short of it, all I'm saying is that from the information that we have gotten from that, that experience, they are offering a lot more to their customers using AI instead of actually losing out. That's what we're hearing. Now, in the Philippines, I've done some research there, because that Philippines, as we all know, is the global powerhouse on BPO. The same exact worry and concern, the reports coming out of something that I read last week in The Economist, saying that we're not going to see any big dip for the next 2 years, but some folks are getting nervous and they are quitting. So they're quitting before they claim that the AI takes away their job. So is it AI actually causing them to leave? We can have that debate.
Thanks for that, Chris. Ahead of Mahiri's question, I just wanted you to contextualize for us how far ahead of the curve Jamaica is in relation to the Caribbean and the rest of the world, really, to make the point that we really are dealing with the AI issue in a comprehensive way.
So when we took a look at at a lot of the more developed nations and looked at the policy guidelines that they had, interestingly enough, we didn't find a tremendous amount. I think when we broke up in teams and we all looked, we probably came up with maybe 30 or 40, and then through that filtering process, we narrowed it down to about 12 or so Prof Core that we actually said, let's just use these because of the advancement of that country and all that. So I think we're in the midst, but Caribbean-wise, we're early. As Minister said a while ago, we're very early. We are getting calls from folks, hey, how did you do it? Can you come and join there's a regional discussion taking place. I went on the call once. I haven't heard anything back from them as yet, but that's how these things are. They take a while, to gel. But I don't know if any other task force members want to throw in anything else, but that's where I think regionally we're ahead. Globally, we're not lagging. We're not lagging at all in what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Chris. All right, Mahiri.
Morning, Mr. Record. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News here. Just a pretty generic question, I guess. Throughout the discussions you had in the compiling of this report, what would you say AI poses as the biggest threat and benefit to the country?
Well, the biggest benefit to the country is all of the various industries that can actually leverage some. Remember, one of the things I said, just as a caveat, we're taking almost every bit of automation now and calling it AI, right? So all of the various technologies and tools that were available to help the various industries that make our country move forward are being used. So we're an example. I've been looking at tourism, one of our biggest earners. And when you see how some folks are using AI to enhance an online experience of a country, right? I was just in Rome last week for a trip with another government organization. And when you see how, before you go out and visit an attraction, when they use the AI tools to enhance what that attraction is, you definitely want to go like today, like right now. You can't wait until your scheduled visit was next week Friday. So it is using that, and that's one example in terms of tourism, in terms of, let's say, agriculture, leveraging all of the tools and technologies for weather prediction and all of those areas are some of those positives. On the negative side, we see a lot of the things that are happening on the negative side with deep fakes, videos and all of that. The other negative challenge that is a real challenge is there was a death recently that was blamed on an AI chatbot, where the child built a relationship with this AI chatbot, and as a result of whatever it is, I mean, it's in court right now, that the child committed suicide because of whether it was told to do so. So I have a weekly AI meeting, a global meeting with about 60 or 70 countries that I join every Monday. And that case was the deep discussion on Monday gone, where the concern was us using this technology. How can we monitor and manage people building relationships with chatbots, right? Where, sometimes some of these folks think that this thing is real. And at the end of the day, the whole concern is, it got back into, our Minister of Health is gone, but it got back into mental health. And how do we connect that back to a balanced lifestyle? So, sir, that's one of the negatives that's there. That's a real global negative. It's in every major business magazine they're talking about it right now.
Chris?
But that's a deep one.
We're going to need to move on. We're just going to take one more question. Just to know, I'm going to ask you to bear with me. We are going to have the Minister of Education and Youth do her presentation. The Prime Minister is planning to come by soon, so we're going to need to wrap up these so that we can move to the presentation from the Prime Minister. So I'm going to take one more question from the media on AI, and then we have to move on. Chris, you'll be available to the media after.
I'll be here.
All right, wonderful.
So let's then get to Kalisha.
Good morning, everyone. Kalisha Williams, Television Jamaica. Mr. Record, I know a general election is around the corner, and one of the greatest challenges we find is, especially during that season, you find a lot of deep fakes, persons saying things they did not actually say, audio sounding like the person, but it's not really them. Any specific policy recommendation that the task force has made in terms of dealing with these issues?
So before the task force was created, our minister reached out to our committee. So we have members from the PSOJ's Innovation and Digital Transformation Committee here. And some of us came together and quickly put together a list of suggestions and recommendations around that. Because guess what? It's the same thing all over the world. I mean, the US election is next week, right? And they're battling it big time. Now, so one thing that you have to realize is what puts that content in front of your eyeballs? it's an algorithm. It's something that is happening there. So we can write policy, we can make recommendations all we want, but if you, the general consumer, is clicking on certain types of links because it grabs your attention, remember, the objective of the system is to build engagement, which, by the way, for the gentleman that asked the question, that's also another risk. When the systems are built for engagement, you're going to do every single solitary thing in their power to get more engagement. So who is to blame? So it's a challenge, and I don't think, Prof. Top, I mean, we've had this discussion. How deep can we go with our recommendations when you're the ones pressing the button to get the more rage? Because we see what's happening in North America, rage sells.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. It's clear that you need to do some public education, town halls for us to have more discussions around that this issues. There are a lot of issues involved here. And so I thank you again for your service to Jamaica, your free service to Jamaica, and all of you for your work on the task force. And I have to mention one individual who is at UWI and a member of the task force. I got a letter that said, you know, I have studied AI. I did not know who this lady was. And she said, I've studied AI. It's an area that I have an interest in. Can I serve? I heard you in the media say you're having an AI task force. Can I join? I didn't know who she was, but she had the expertise, and I said, yes, you can join. And there's so many Jamaicans who want to support in that way, and we are here to facilitate your supporting. And so I thank the entire AI task force again. And now we're going to be moving on to our Minister of Education and Youth. And unfortunately, because she comes last today, it's still the most important, but after her, there's an even more important discussion we're going to have with PM. We're hoping that he will start at 10 a.m. So unfortunately, we may have to take some of the education matters over into next week. But Minister, it's quite important for us to hear about what's happening in the Ministry of Education, and so I hand it over to you now.
All right. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. I see MP Civils here, ladies, and my team from the Ministry of Education and Youth, ladies and gentlemen, members from the media, Jamaicans everywhere, good morning. So let me begin by expressing my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Rashad Richards of Campion College, who died in what is believed to be a freak accident involving a goalpost yesterday after school. The ministry's guidance and counseling teams, along with the guidance counselors from other schools, are expected to visit the school today. I'm sure they're there already, and begin to offer support to students and teachers. Let me take this opportunity to share that there are set standards for the equipment used in sports offered at schools, including goalposts. And these standards are in the Jamaican standard specifications for the safety and performance of football goals. It was the first to be completed at the time. It was created by the Ministry of Education and Youth in partnership with the Bureau of Standards Jamaica some years ago. And these standards include how goalposts should be used and even how they should be secured when in and not in use. And we will be reminding schools of these standards, and teams from the Ministry of Education and Youth will be conducting visits to inspect these goalposts and ensure adherence to the respective standards. Schools must remain places of safety. Let us keep Rashad's family in our prayers. So the Ministry of Education and Youth is midway through the Christmas term 2024, and is gearing up for another busy month. Each year, November commemorates two of our very integral stakeholders, our Jamaican youth and our parents. November is National Youth Month, and the Ministry of Education and Youth, through the Youth and Adolescents Policy Division, coordinates a series of activities aimed at recognizing and honoring the contributions, the energy, and more importantly, the potential of our Jamaican youth. So this year's theme, Youth Impact 2024, Innovative Minds, Purposeful Action, Collective Triumphs is intended to inspire a call to action, encouraging our young people to focus on the tangible influence and contributions they can make in their communities. Youth Impact 2024 will embody empowerment and agency, action and responsibility, leadership and innovation, collaboration and inclusivity, measurement of progress and legacy. Of importance to our youth, we know, is education and skills training, which will open avenues for employment and entrepreneurship. And as a government, we have significantly and commendably reduced youth unemployment from where we took it at approximately 25% to where it stands now in October of 2023 at about 10%. We want to highlight the collaboration between the Ministry of Education and Youth and HEART's LIFT program, which is facilitating the placement of 2,500 Jamaicans into roles within their preferred fields over a number of years. Of course, as well, we have to highlight the increased access to tertiary as a result of actions on the part of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to no longer requiring 2 guarantors. As a government, we believe in the continuing investments in education and training, especially for young people, to ensure they have the requisite skills and knowledge now and in the future. I move on now to our next event. Well, let me just highlight some of the calendar of events for National Youth Month. We begin with a celebration of faith, and of course, we will have the 15th sitting of the National Youth Parliament. We'll have around the table discussions upon the corner initiatives, consultation on the national youth policy. We'll also have a global night, student leadership and governance capacity building workshops, National Youth Month Forum, and even the AGM of the National Youth Council of Jamaica. So I invite you to follow along on social media platforms to check out the topics of the various calendar events that we have announced. I now switch to another important event during the month of November, and it's the National Parent Month. The National Parent Support Commission is the agency of the Ministry of Education and Youth committed to strengthening and promoting support for parents and, by extension, families through respectful and positive collaboration. Home and school are important worlds in the lives of our children. When both are connected positively, our children can begin to feel safer and secure, and this affects their learning and development in healthy ways, and thereby benefiting not only students, but parents, schools, communities, and the country. The recognition of Parent Month is an initiative observed every November, and is that time when the sector spotlights parents, giving credit to their contributions. This year's Parent Month theme is Surf Beyond the Surface. It will guide parents in a month-long discourse on parenting and artificial intelligence. The theme is supported by 3 pillars. Pillar 1, click, get with it. Pillar 2, connect, go with it. And Pillar 3, collaborate, grow with it. Of course, we look forward to the activities to commemorate National Parent Month, including a media launch, which we will have on Friday, November 1st, church service on Sunday, November 3rd, community sensitization meetings in schools, the accreditation framework launch, town hall activities, and much more. As you would agree, November is a special month as we celebrate not only National Youth Month, but also National Parent Month. And this is our chance to recognize our amazing young people and the parents and guardians who guide them There will be many activities where everyone can join in and begin to make a difference. So let us come together to support our youth, strengthen our families, and build strong communities. And again, I implore you to follow us on all our social media platforms. Thank you, and I look forward to charting all the positive things we will achieve together during the month of November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I'll ask Naomi if there are questions.
Well, Minister, the media says they're waiting on PM. So,
but you have the Minister of Education here. I'm sure you have some additional questions. We are waiting for him. He is going to be here imminently.
Indeed.
Naomi, were there any other questions that had been there before that we could take in the interim?
Sure, let's take one from Kalisha, and I'll get a few online.
Good morning again, Minister. In regards to the incident at Campion College yesterday, it's a third such incident within a decade, and there are still concerns about what the Education Ministry is doing to ensure that we don't have a repeat of what happened yesterday. What is the Education Ministry doing about that? Thank you.
All right, so as I said in my presentation, we promulgated standards. We continue in our physical education courses to ensure that safety is taught. We do periodic audits, but my understanding yesterday was that there was quite a bit of rain. Soil might have softened. We don't know. We have to investigate exactly what happened. But we want to assure Jamaicans that we do checks across our schools because we know the danger of goalposts in our schools, having had the experience with deaths in the past.
Thank you, Minister. Any further questions from the floor? All right. Minister, there is one. I think we're just awaiting the Prime Minister. They're trying to fix that door. Yeah. All right. There is one concerning the issue of parenting. November is Parents' Month as well. And there was a question online concerning how many parents are on board in terms of improving the standards in schools and working along with schools to ensure that we have greater outcomes for our children.
All right. Would you, Minister, you can come, and I know that the head of the Parenting Commission is here, so we can take some questions until PM gets here.
Okay. So I am really proud of the effort of the Ministry of Education and Youth during this past academic year to reach out to parents in terms of providing lots of different sessions for them to meet their needs.
I beg your pardon, Minister, as we respond to that, may we stand for the arrival of the Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Please. This morning, I'm reminded that today is a pivotal day in Jamaican history, the 30th of October. I take you back to the year 1980, when the Jamaica Labour Party won what was described then as a landslide victory. Then, I believe, the largest margin won by any political party of the time. But it is more remembered for the Deliverance campaign. It was also remembered as a time when Jamaica pivoted from a particular type and style of governance. And it is usually well regarded as a period of time for the rescue and recovery of the Jamaican economy. I start there by pointing out this time in history because We are also in a long campaign for the rescue and recovery of Jamaica, and which we have been doing a wonderful job in that regard. But we're also at a point of pivot, a point of inflection, a point where we are poised for even greater change. So, I know that a number of Jamaicans have been waiting, apparently with bated breath, for these very few words that I am about to utter. I'm pleased to announce the following appointments. The Honourable Favour Williams, MP, will assume duties as Minister of Finance and the Public Service. Senator Dr. the Honourable Dana Morris Dixon will assume duties as Minister of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And Mr. Matthew Sabuda, MP, will reassume his role as Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. These appointments are designed to maintain stability and minimize disruption in the functioning of the government, but at the same time, pivot towards a growth-oriented economic policy, as well as to make a priority and focus of human capital development. To help drive this pivot towards growth, I have assigned my senior advisor, Mr. Alec John, who is highly regarded for his financial expertise, to work closely with the Minister of Finance, newly minted Minister Favour Williams, as well as with other private sector stakeholders. Also, the consolidation of the skills portfolio, including heart with education, will help to drive our focus on human capital development and to better integrate technical and vocational skills training into the education system. Mr. Matthew Samuda, as Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, will continue the significant progress we have made in the provision of water and environmental protection. I have a few other announcements to make. Yes, I'm just giving you some time to process. I'm also announcing the date for the by-election in the constituencies of Trelawney Southern and St. Andrew Northwestern. Nomination day will be Wednesday, November 6, 2024, and election day will be Friday, November 22nd, 2024, for both constituencies. I encourage all eligible voters to exercise their constitutional right to vote and participate actively in the democratic process. So all has been processed. There are two other announcements to be made, and I invite the Minister of Local Government and the respective chairmen of the municipal authorities in question to come to the podium.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined by the Mayor of Montego Bay and the Mayor of Maypen as it relates to the two vacancies in the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation and in the Clarendon Municipal Corporation. Both mayors have consulted and have advised and have asked me to announce that the 6th of November, nomination day, the 22nd of November, will be election day for both divisions, respectively, in the St. Thomas and Clarendon Municipal Corporation. I will also use the same words of the Prime Minister by urging electorates in both divisions to go out and cast their votes.
Thank you, gentlemen. So it seems there are no questions.
All right, I think given the time, PM, and I know you have other engagements, we will do 2 questions, Naomi. Let's try for 2.
Make it 3 since
all right, so
here.
since you have 3 of them.
Let's start off.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News here.
Good morning.
All right, my question is, what went behind making the decision to make Favour Williams our new Minister of Finance and Dana Morris Dixon our new Education Minister, and when was this decision made?
Well, the decision is effectively made now. If you're wondering when my mind settled on these things, maybe 5 minutes ago. No, the truth is that the Prime Ministerial prerogative to determine members of the cabinet is not beyond the questioning of the public, and I appreciate the question. Minister Favour Williams, you will recall, was actually a minister in the Ministry of Finance. If my memory serves me correct, you were a Minister of State and then a Minister without portfolio, and served with distinction at that time. So she's not new to the portfolio. If you were to look at her resume does recommend her to the position. In addition, and just to be clear, this business of people presenting their academic qualifications as a basis for political office is not something that I necessarily make a priority in the decision. But the truth is that the stakeholder community that she will serve specifically would want to know that someone who is going to be in that area has some technical competence. And so I don't think there could be any question about Minister Williams' technical competence in that field. But more than that, she also has practical experience. She worked in the financial sector for many years. She is a business person and has the experience of starting her own business, and therefore she would understand quite a bit about business. Now, just to be clear, the Ministry of Finance is not only about business. As you would recall, a large part of the effort of the former Minister of Finance was in dealing with the unions and the wage issues, and there is something called the public sector that has to be properly managed, and so that person has to have skills in institution building and so forth. The idea, of course, is to ensure that whoever is in the Ministry of Finance is a disciple of the government's policy of fiscal discipline. That is what is really important. I could never put anyone there who is going to in any way depart from the hard-earned gains and sacrifice of the Jamaican people to get us to where we are today. And I'm confident that Minister Williams is a disciple. You know, my experience, my life experience in growing up in a, and I tell the story, sometimes people say I should tell it more, you know, in a one-bedroom board house in Spanish Town. My mother, a civil servant for many years, a single mother, trying to send 2 kids to school. If you ask me what my financial philosophy is, it's about being frugal, frugality, right? It's about making the most that you can out of the least resources that you have. So it's also about efficiency. And we never borrowed. I don't like debt. But of course, you know, debt is important, but you have to be able to manage it. So whoever is going to be the Minister of Finance has to have that similar kind of outlook. We're not going to put the country in debt. We're going to manage our affairs properly. We're going to be efficient. And we're going to be respectful of the sacrifice and hard work of people. And I think that Minister Williams would meet that criteria. Clearly, there are other persons in the cabinet who I could have considered. So the decision would also be on the basis of what would be the least disruptive to the operations of the government. and if I were to start to move the ministers around too often, projects that they have started that they need to see through, things that are important to achieve, that could be disrupted and it could set the government behind. So clearly we look at competence, we look at the fit for purpose, but we also look at the overall operations of the government to make sure it is seamless. You know, we don't necessarily analyze the government's operation in an accurate way all the time. And the truth is that this administration has been probably the most stable administration we have had in the history of Jamaica. We have managed to make massive changes. Seamless, don't skip a beat, without disruption. And that can only inure to the benefit of the people of the country. So stability is an important part of any decision that we are going to make. And I'm certain that this decision will inure to the stability and continuity of government. But bear in mind what I have said and take it seriously. The government is engineering a pivot towards accelerated growth. It's a pivot towards an aggressive pursuit of growth. And believe me when I say we're going to be vicious in that regard. We have conquered the fiscal issues. Now it's time to conquer the growth issues.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Very important intervention. We have two other questions. May I just acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Prime Minister, who is also here with us, Dr. Horace Chang. And I'm sure that many persons online are saying that the historical value of the moment is also not lost. Minister Williams being the first female,
yes,
full
how
female
could I forget to mention that?
Minister of Finance. All right. And the Gleaner now has the floor.
But it's important to know that the decision was not made on that basis.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Shoshana Small from the Gleaner. Sure. Prime Minister, there was some speculation that you were in fact considering taking this post as well. Is there any truth to that?
I want you to see, this is a challenge I'm having sometimes when I read the commentary. How does a speculation become a truth? Look, I've seen this argument about the possibility of me taking over the Ministry of Finance. It is always in my purview as Prime Minister to take over any ministry I choose. Then there is this issue of conflict of interest. I mean, just think about it. You know, all the ministers are accountable to me in any event. But would it make sense for the Prime Minister, who has been indicating from more than a year now, and I've been saying these things very clearly, in the hopes that those people who write the headlines would pick them up, that Jamaica has to pivot, and I've used those exact words, that the new shift is to peace, productivity, to create the virtuous cycle for prosperity, that we're going to pivot to growth. Would it make sense that I am going to then take on the Ministry of Finance when the pivot now has to be growth? And would it also make sense for me to add an additional burden, if I didn't give up the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, to the already very substantial portfolio that I lead? I think people forget that I am a minister. I function like all the other ministers, and I have the largest ministry that is delivering the jobs, the infrastructure, the environmental protection, the housing, which is moving rapidly. Yes, I am a minister, and I function as a minister, in addition to doing the job of the Prime Minister. I'm not going to take on any more specific burdens right now, especially when the focus now shifts to really cranking up the growth agenda And the growth agenda has several elements to it. A critical element which we have laid the groundwork for when we put in place a commission to do a review of the education sector is education as a critical element to the growth agenda. Believe it or not, the greatest constraint to growth at this moment is labor. We don't have enough, and we have underemployment of labor as well, and we don't have enough skills to drive growth. So this issue of human capital development requires laser-like attention. So that is where my energy and focus is going to be, along with the newly appointed Minister of Education and Skills. And then another constraint on our growth boundary is bureaucracy. So we are going to have to pivot now to look at the ease of doing business. Put it another way, the cost of doing business in Jamaica. All the processes and the red tape and all the institutions that we have put on more regulation that is just slowing down and hampering business. We have to cut out all of those things now. And then we also must now look at being in an aggressive posture to take advantage of economic opportunities that may arise. And then we must also adopt another posture of creating new industries. And the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation will play a pivotal role in the creation of new industries. In fact, the Office of the Prime Minister will play that coordinating role. So there is a job of work to be done, which is slightly different from the work that we have focused on in our last two administrations, which is to get the fiscal arrangements of the economy right, to get the economy stable, to get the economy to a level of resilience where it can respond and recover quickly. And I think we have settled that. Now let's shift now to the other agenda. And in all of that, we cannot forget the most important thing, which is the pain points, the suffering of the people of Jamaica. That, you know, it's one thing to drive on the fancy highways that we have built, but when you come off them and then you have to be rocking in the pothole-filled roads, you're upset. We understand. We get it. But we are not going to be like other governments who tell you that, yeah, we're going to do it and can't do it. If it's one thing you can know about this government, if we tell you we're going to do it, it's going to get done, because we have figured out the way to make sure that whatever we say, we back it up with resources. We understand that care is about saying you care, but care is also about showing you care. So yes, you know, we get criticized because we don't say we care enough, but we do show that we care. And so you're going to get the government that does both. We're going to tell you we care, and that's the populism that any government can give you. But we're going to show you we care by managing the economy well and getting the resources to spend on the challenges that you face. So when we are making much about the new buses that we have bought, that's a tangible way to show we care. And we're going to expand that right across Jamaica, and we're going to help people with transportation to reduce the cost of living that they face. When we talk about caring in healthcare, Minister Tufton was here, we're going to be spending quite a bit of resources in healthcare to show that we really care. We are actually very focused on putting back the care in healthcare. Anyway, I'm giving you a speech you didn't ask for. Ladies and gentlemen, I
Prime Minister, we did
much.
promise one final question,
Sure.
so if we could, and of course we thank our broadcasters who are now broadcasting live, having heard your announcement. Kalisha.
Thank you. Kelisha Williams, Television Jamaica. I have two questions, Mr. Holness, one for you and one for Minister Williams. You announced a by-election for South Trelawney. Can you say who will be your party's candidate for that division? I'm hearing on the ground that it may, the constituency, sorry, that the former Member of Parliament, Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert, may be making a comeback. Can you say, if yes, why is she making a comeback after resigning? And also, why did you wait so long to announce a by-election for that constituency? And for Minister Williams, big post as Finance Minister, what will be your first priority? Thank you.
Yes, so put it this way, by popular demand of the constituency, Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert will be the Jamaica Labour Party's candidate for Trelawney Southern. It's difficult to speak for Marissa as to why she resigned and then she's coming back. And I'm certain she will give an explanation. But my own view is that she really respected the perspectives of the public with whatever was accusations were laid in the public domain. And she thought it was the honorable thing to do. But I think that as she went through the constituency and people kept demanding that she return, and she does have quite a popular support in the constituency. So, it's really the will of the people, and we will see the will of the people exercised in the by-election. In terms of why I waited, well, the prerogative of calling an election is given to the Prime Minister, and there are some rules around it. But in calling the elections, the latitude that is given for a reason, which is to allow and always allow for the Prime Minister to protect the government that is formed. And in the discussions that are had, sometimes that is lost, that our system of government is designed for stability and continuity and, of the government. And so the Prime Minister exercises that authority to ensure that the government that is formed can continue. And so you want to be sure that whenever you call an election, you are in a good position to win it. And that's just the reality. You want to be sure that you are in a position that your government can continue. That doesn't speak to any disenfranchisement of the democratic process. It is the nature of our democracy, which is why our democracy is stable. And when I'm saying our democracy, our system of democracy is the most stable type of democracy that there is, precisely because there is this allowance. Just to be clear, however, the people of Southern Trelawney were never deprived of any representational benefits that would accrue from having their Member of Parliament. Provisions were in place to ensure that whatever benefits that would come to constituents who are in need or whatever service they needed, that those services would continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Prime Minister. And as the Prime Minister exits, and we can ask Minister Williams. Yes, the Prime Minister will take a photograph with his new minister as well. His first full Minister of Finance as Minister Favor Williams. All right. Congratulations, Minister. And Minister, there is a question posed for you. Minister?
We'll do that as the last question, the question that had been posed for Minister. Congratulations, Minister.
Thank you so much.
First,
all right,
female Minister of Finance and the Public Service.
All right, well, allow me to just say that I am deeply honored and profoundly humbled to be given this opportunity to be Jamaica's Minister of Finance. The role is one of great responsibility, and it comes at a pivotal moment in our country's journey. We're in a time that continues to demand a vision, resilience, and a steadfast commitment to building a future
that offers both stability and opportunity for all citizens. I assure you, I am ready to work tirelessly to continue to make this vision a reality. But let me say as well, finance is more than balancing the books. It is about ensuring that every resource we allocate, every policy we enact, and every initiative we launch is a step towards a more prosperous and a more inclusive economy. And in this role, I pledge to prioritize accountability and innovation and to listen closely to the needs and aspirations of those we serve. Our economy, like those across the globe, continues to face challenges, but I see in these challenges incredible opportunities to continue to build on the foundation that has been created to create an even more resilient country. We will continue to invest in infrastructure needed for sustainable growth, and you heard the Prime Minister when he talked about the pivotal moment where we are to pivot towards accelerated growth. He mentioned that education, the ministry from which I'm leaving, and congratulations, Minister. I will download to you everything I know to make your journey, a better one. He talked about the constraint on growth, being the bureaucracy. How do we improve the ease of doing business? How do we take advantage of economic opportunities? How do we create new industries? And I see the Ministry of Finance as the engine behind all of that, helping to facilitate economic growth that we all want. We have had, we've had growth for a number of quarters, but where we need to go now is acceleration of that growth. So I am committed to the continued pursuit of fiscal prudence and creative solutions, one that values the expertise of all the members at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. I will seek to collaborate with industry leaders, civil society, and most importantly, the citizens we serve. My goal is to build not only for the present, but for generations to come. Together, I know that we can continue building an economy that reflects our values of hard work, integrity, and inclusivity. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for his trust and confidence in me, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to realize a future of economic prosperity and shared success. Thank you.
Thank you
and
so much.
I hope that answers the question.
I think it absolutely does answer, Minister, and congratulations again to you, and thank you to members of the media.
Minister, may I take a little liberty? The media has asked that you too, as the incoming Minister of Information, respond to the question, your priority on day one, this being day one, now that you are elevated to education, along with your other responsibilities as well.
All right, thank you for that question. And I didn't have a prepared speech to make this morning, but as the Prime Minister said, education is critical. Education is critical for all of the goals that we desire for our people. And I know that as I have gone around Jamaica, I see these young, brilliant, bright minds around our country, and all they need are opportunities. And the Ministry of Education is so important in delivering the kind of workforce that believes in building Jamaica, that believes in the values that we hold dear. And I tell you, just based on my discussions with the Prime Minister, it is important that we leave no child behind. It is important that no child leaves school unable to read. It is important that every child is numerate. And for a long time, we've not really been able to achieve that. but the Jamaica of the future that we need demands that we put the resources into our beautiful children, because the future of Jamaica rests in their hands, and the work that we will do is going to be central to getting that workforce that can take us forward. This morning we spoke about artificial intelligence. That's a whole different world that we're talking about. And our children have to feel that they are empowered to be leaders in this area and any other area that they want. And it's important that we give them that equal opportunity. I know in my own life, education has been the reason that I'm standing here, because I got the best education that Jamaica has to offer. My goal is that ultimately every child will be able to get the kind of education that I was able to get, and that it will not just be for the purview of a few. And so, without my prepared remarks, that's what I will say this morning. And I mean, this is an interesting way to know what your new role is. Apparently, I am still Minister of Information, so I will see you at the next post-cabinet press briefing that will be called. Thank you all for coming, and God bless you, and God bless Jamaica land we love.